Welcome everyone. It is wonderful to be back with you again here at the Global Innovation Forum. So can I get, please, a big wake us all up good morning from everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
Wow, you've got, I tell you what, that's the best in 10 years, so well done. Finally, I don't have to ask you to do it again. Well, we have, as Max says, a brilliant couple of days lined up for you. We have got the usual array of amazing speakers. And I'm not going to go through them all, but just on day one, we have got people from Lego, TikTok, PepsiCo. We've got Dan Mikowski up next. We've got Diageo. Oh, God, I've too many to remember. We have also got the universities of Oxford and Cambridge, both very highly regarded, I believe, up here to think and provoke your thinking. We've got people doing workshops, as Max has mentioned. We've got a dance psychologist who I genuinely hope can improve my dancing in some way, shape or form. And we've got iconic car designers. We've just got such an amazing array of ways to make you think differently, to get you out of those rivers of thinking. And we also have the wonderful live illustration from Chris and Jack at the back. Give us a wave, guys, who will be, for any of you who have been before, creating amazing artworks out of many of these talks, if not all of the talks, that we'll showcase and give a really handy little reminder of some of the things that you have learned. But GIF is not really about what happens on this stage or in the workshops. It's actually about all of you. And one of the things I've always loved about it, and when I'm trying to convince people that this is a worthwhile investment of 2 of their days, what I say is we have an amazing mix of people from around the world, from different companies, from different disciplines, all coming together. And it's that cross-fertilization that I think is super special. The other thing is that there are about 150 people here. So it's super intimate. It's not one of these enormous sort of conference halls. So get out there, make friends, meet people, go and network, though I would hope make friends is a rather less scary way of putting it. Just to introduce myself very briefly, I'm Tom Ellis. I've now, scarily enough, been doing this for 10 years. I'm also, in my spare time, when I'm not doing this, the CEO of a brand consultancy called Brand Genetics, and we use deep human understanding to unlock growth. So, life is a prototype. Max has already intimated this. And for those eagle-eyed amongst you, you may have some clues as to what we're doing next. Life, in its essence, right, is a series of experiments. We're always trying to iterate. We're always trying to improve. Quite often we don't manage it, but prototyping is one of the key steps. And so, if you talk about a conference and the theme is life as a prototype, we better get prototyping. So beware audience participation coming up. Makes everyone shudder a little bit. First of all, I want you just to take a second or a moment to think about a little challenge that you face in your life. I say little. This is probably not world peace. I would also suggest it's something that you face that's sort of relatable, so it's not a very specific work challenge, okay? So just try and picture in your head a problem, something that you're trying to solve. It could be something about getting your kids to keep the house tidy. It could be you can't get teams to work properly on a Monday morning. It could be anything like that. Does everyone feel like they've got something in their head? Okay. Because normally that's when we go blank. So look, think of a problem. Now the next bit, grab what you've got next to you. You might have to share, you might have to make friends. There are pipe cleaners. There is Play-Doh. There is paper and pens at the back of your room. And you have 2 minutes to, in some way, shape or form, create a prototype for a solution to this problem. So, what are you going to create? Now, we're going to give you 2 minutes, and then I'll tell you what comes next. So, I don't know if we can get this to start. If not, I'm going to set it up on my timer. Have fun. right. You're on my timer, even if you're not on the one up there. Don't worry. Keep the music going, though. I know some of you are designers. You won't be judged on this. Don't worry. Okay. I'm now going to ask you all to stand up, please. Everyone stand up. Don't worry, this is not the scary bit. There's some wonderful designs going on. I'm now going to ask you to go and find someone who you've never met before and share with them your prototype. And just have a little bit of chat about the ones that you've made, what problem they're solving, and give each other one piece of feedback, something they can do to improve the prototype. So go and meet someone new, move, you can move around the room. Find someone, find a friendly face. I hope that was fun. I would love it if we can put a little gallery maybe of prototypes out the front. You are very welcome, of course, to keep them and improve them and take them home and show your families and your colleagues what you've done. But it's a bit of fun, but it's also a chance to illustrate how important it is to get out there and make something and then share it, right? We talked last year about the importance of making and putting it out there and getting feedback and learning, and that is what it's about. And I would say to you today and tomorrow that you're not going to see or hear things that are perfectly fitted to what you want or what you need, but you will have things that are half-baked kernels of ideas that can allow you to improve, you to iterate, you to develop. Not perfect solutions, but like your own prototype. The more you move, it'll help move you closer to your objective. Now, I want to talk about something a little bit different now. This. Now, I've been doing this 10 years, as I say, and I look back with Max over what are the big challenges that have come up time and time again. And what becomes clear is that the biggest one is actually big corporate companies are their own worst enemies when it comes to innovation. And it's like they're operating with their own shoelaces tied together. And who's tied their shoelaces together? They have. So I hope this is familiar. Well, I don't hope it's familiar. I know it's familiar to many of you. I hope it's not familiar to some of you. But the evidence is so clear that being innovative is a real force for good. You are going to grow faster. You are going to sell more. And you are going to drive shareholder return if you are more innovative. So why doesn't this translate into companies saying, yeah, okay, let's go out there and do that? Why wouldn't they, or the people within them, want to adopt practices that are demonstrably better? Now, this often comes down to a discussion about culture. It's the wrong culture, you know. But I think about this, and I think how many years I've seen this and how many different companies I've heard this from, and I think, are we misdiagnosing the problem? Is it about culture, or is it actually about behavior? And so I wanted to do, again, a little experiment, less audience participation involved here. But I wanted to take a brief diversion into the world of keyboards. Now, I know this is going to be a bit Anglo-centric, so apologies for that. But who here uses a QWERTY keyboard? Yeah? Okay, good. Now, it surprised me to learn the other day that the QWERTY keyboard was in fact designed specifically because when they had typewriters, some of you may remember these, if you type too fast, they jam. And so the QWERTY keyboard's a brilliant design for slowing typing down. It literally is meant to slow us down. Now, in the world of word processors and now computers, this is no longer a problem. So this guy, Dr. August Dvorak, created a keyboard very carefully designed to optimize typing speed, to make sure we make less mistakes, and to actually even lessen repetitive strain injuries. So this is better all round. And of course, because we're in a room full of innovators who want to do the right thing, we're all using it. So hands up, who's using a Dvorak keyboard?
I own a Dvorak
You own one, sir. Is it in the library, the cupboard? No?
But I own a lot of keyboards.
Well, you know, that's great. You work for Microsoft, so I guess that. Okay. And make keyboards. He makes keyboards, and you use a QWERTY keyboard.
Yeah, I do use a QWERTY.
Excellent. Okay. I think that's proved my point. Now, you come from all these different wonderful cultures. So this can't be a cultural problem, right? We've got big companies, we've got small companies, we've got different nations, different disciplines. This has to be a behavioral challenge, right? This is actually, to me, epitomizes what we're facing in the world of corporate innovation. Okay? Why are we not all using these? It's the same as why we're not innovating. It's because we don't see innovation, or people around us don't see innovation, as a behavior that is normal, easy, attractive, or routine. Now, at Brand Genetics, we specialize in understanding why people do what they do, even if they can't tell you. And that is because what we believe is it's very important to understand why things are driving people's behavior. Until you do that, you cannot change behavior. And so when you think about it, all innovation starts in some sort of behavior change. And for us, whether it's doing something as significant as driving plastic recycling, or helping people choose better diets, or just drinking a different beer, it all comes back to how we're going to drive that behavior change. Now, we use a lot of different models. I've talked about COM-B to this audience in the past. There's behavior change wheel. They are complicated. So it's 9 a.m.-ish on a Wednesday morning, and I want to give you something that I think is clearer, simpler, and easier to implement. Because I think if we can change behavior, if we can use this as a guide, then actually I think good things happen and good things follow. So what I'm going to introduce to you is what we call NEAR, the NEAR framework. And this says that to make any behavior more likely, I'm going to apply it to innovation in corporates, but you can take this and apply it to anything you want to change in terms of behavior. You need to make it normal, you need to make it easy, you need to make it attractive, and you need to make it routine. Okay? Now, the opposite of this is pretty much the opposite. It's a FAR. So it's abnormal, it's fraught, it's aversive, it's reflective. I would argue that a lot of corporate innovation at the moment is not common, right? It's abnormal. People lack the confidence. They face barriers, so it's fraught. It's often seen as, it is disruptive, right? Outcomes are uncertain, so it's aversive. And it is not routine. It requires very deliberate effort. So our challenge is really to move corporate innovation from the world of a FAR to NEAR. And I'm going to whistle-stop through just some examples. So, normal. This is really about social proof. This is about seeing people around you who you respect. So leaders, I know Richard's going to talk a bit about leadership later, and other role models in the organization and how they innovate. And a few just examples of companies and what they're doing. So Intuit has this Follow Me Home program, Intuit behind QuickBooks. And what they do is they send out executives to go into people's homes or businesses and see how they're using their products. Now, it's critical from their point of view that leaders are involved in this. And it's not just about sort of certain levels of employees, but top to bottom. And then they really sing the praises of what this delivers in terms of insights and in terms of innovations resulting. Tata have their Innovista Awards program. That celebrates innovations across the company. Some of you may well have these sorts of things, but they have the Dare to Try Award, which I love because it's all about an innovation that hasn't worked, a failure. And what they show through celebrating that is that you can learn from it. Again, it normalizes failure. Failure is part of innovation. We all know that. We're going to talk about it. Toyota, the Kaizen philosophy, again, many of you will know, continuous improvement, top to bottom, managers and workers. So some examples of how we can make it normal. Easy, right? We need to remove barriers. This is all about your personal capabilities and your opportunity, your environmental sort of scenes. How we get rid of the barriers to doing innovation in those terms. So Amazon have their PR FAQ, so a press release and frequently asked questions. And that's the way they kind of set up their template for innovation. This has resulted in things like AWS, I think, actually. I mean, God, that's a behemoth. Prime, Kindle, it keeps you very consumer, customer centric, but it's simple as well, and it's, again, just making it easy. Spotify, they have a squads model, very simple way of actually small cross-functional teams that are empowered to work autonomously. And again, you think about some of the barriers you guys face, I'm sure, in getting cross-functional innovation together. This really simplifies that. And as Steve Jobs was always a massive fan of engineered serendipity, so designed workspaces that encouraged the sort of accidental meetings. So that's easy. Attractive. Now, this is an environment where people are drawn to innovation activities. This is motivation. And this can be very tied to things like incentives, rewards, recognition, and intrinsic motivators. Now, back before he became the first buddy and started ruling the free world hand in hand with Donald Trump, Elon at SpaceX basically said that the incentive structure was very clearly tied to innovation. It wasn't so worried about making mistakes, but it was about, did you innovate? And failure to innovate would result, this is very Elon, right? Failure to innovate would result in you being fired, okay? If you want a bit more carrot and less stick, Adobe and the Kickbox, again, I'm sure we'll hear a little bit more about this, makes it fun, makes it easy, gives people a card that they can, and instructions and tools to develop their own ideas. It's meant to empower employees. Probably my favorite here, though, is Patagonia, because it taps into their mission, which is all about we're in the business to save our home planet, and it puts that sort of at the center of innovation. It says, look, what are the things that we're running into that run counter? So, for example, harvesting cotton has a massive environmental impact. So they moved to only using organic cotton. And that threw up a whole new realm of innovation, ideas, business models, ways they had to approach it. So that innovating within constraints. So again, how do you tap into different sorts of motivations for people, extrinsic and intrinsic? And last but not least on this rattle through is routine. We have to try and make it habitual, okay? Not just the one workshop a year or every 2 years or something like that, where it feels strange and unusual. How do we make it routine? Because we're far more likely to do things if we don't have to think about them. So famously, Google 20% time. Again, Gmail, AdSense, Google News, all came out of giving employees that sense of their own time that they're going to spend on their own passions. 3M have 15% time. I'd be interested to know how much difference there is in the quality of innovation, that 5%. Not gonna figure it out here. Pixar have brains trust meetings. They regular sessions where they get films at certain stages of development out in front of a kind of an audience who is somewhat removed from it, but they're there to feed back, to critique, to build, to help this thing unleash its potential. But again, the regularity of it really helps. And then P&G have their connect and develop system. This integrates internal needs with external ideas and technologies that help make collaboration and innovation a regular part of their approach to business. So, near. That's what I want to leave you with. By making innovation normal, easy, attractive, and routine, we can create an environment where behaviors evolve. And here's the real kicker. Actually, if we change people's behaviors, what we know happens is they start to change their minds too. It's that way round you want to work. Change the behavior, it changes the minds. Don't try and change the minds to change the behavior. This is because as human beings, we like to be consistent. So if we find ourselves doing something, we start to think, oh, well, that's probably what I think I should be doing. And repeated behaviors that become habits in turn shape attitudes and beliefs. So what is culture if it's not behavior, attitudes, and beliefs? So this can really help us. Now, despite this, I know it's still not an easy challenge to solve, and many of you will have seen or even implemented or been part of initiatives like this in the past. But what I would say is it's rarely enough to just tackle one part of the puzzle. That's where the NEAR framework can really help you diagnose what the challenge is, and then think about how you can address all the different elements of it. And, you know, life is a prototype, so you will have to keep iterating and improving as you go. Which all brings us, Max will be relieved to know, back to the idea of prototyping. Because a prototype, it turns out, is also not just something, but it can be someone that serves as a model or inspiration for what comes next. And perhaps our most important legacy is not an innovation, but actually inspiring and enabling others, creating the conditions for more innovative behaviours across our businesses. And in that sense, maybe we can actually be the prototypes. Thank you.